Why is Java often termed as a platform? Platform is the environment in which programs execute. Instead of interacting with the operating system directly, Java programs runs on a virtual machine provided by Java, therefore Java is often referred to as a platform also. What is a bytecode? Bytecode is an intermediate code that is understood by the JVM, Java Virtual Machine, and are independent of the underlying hardware. What do you understand by JVM? It is an abstract machine designed to JVM or Java Virtual Machine be implemented on top of existing processors. It hides the underlying OS from Java application. Programs written in Java are compiled into Java bytecode, which is then interpreted by a special Java interpreter for a specific platform. Actually, this Java interpreter is known as Java Virtual Machine, JVM. What is JDK, Java Development Kit? The Java Development Kit comes with a collection of tools that are used for developing and running Java programs. What are Java APIs? The Java APIs, Application Program Interface, consist of libraries of pre-compiled code that programmers can use in their application. Write the characteristics of Java, Blue Edge. 1. Write once, run anywhere. 2. Lightweight code. 3. Security. 4. Built-in graphics. 5. Object-oriented language. 6. Support multimedia. 7. Platform independent. 8. Open product. What do you know about Blue Edge? Blue Edge is a Java development environment. It is an IDE, integrated development environment, which includes an editor, a debugger, and a viewer. How you create, compile, and execute a program in Java or Blue Edge? Explain your answer. Create, click on New Class button from Blue Edge Editor, then type the class name. A program icon will be created. Double-click on it, a program editor will be open. Erase the code and type your program coding. Compile. Click the Compile button on the left of the window or right-click on the class icon and select Compile from the menu options. Execute. Right-click on the class icon and select New Class Name option. A dialog box appears. Type the name of the object. An object icon will be created at the bottom. Right-click on the object icon and select the method we want to execute. What are the type of Java program? The two types of Java programs are Internet Applets, Java Application. State the differences between syntax errors and logical errors. The compiler can only translate a program if the program is syntactically correct, otherwise the compilation fails and you will not be able to run your program. Syntax refers to the structure of your program and the rules about that structure. The second type of error is a runtime error, so called because the error does not appear until you run the program. In Java, runtime errors occur when the interpreter is running the bytecode and something goes wrong. What are the basic features of Java? Basic features of Java as follows. It is an object-oriented language. Java program is both compiled and interpreted. Java program can be application or applet. Java is case-sensitive language, that is, it distinguished upper and lower case letters. Compiler and interpreter. Compiler converts source to machine code all at once. Interpreter converts source code to machine line by line. Java uses both compiler and interpreter. Explain. Java compiler converts source code to machine code. Java interpreter, the machine code is further converted into an intermediate code by JVM which can run on any operating system. Differentiate between source code and bytecode. Source code is the program developed in Java language, which is input to a computer through the keyboard. Compiler converts source code to bytecode for interpretation. Differentiate between testing and debugging. Testing is the process of checking program logic manually to ensure whether it contains any error or not. Debugging is the process of removing errors from a program. What is an object? An object is an identifiable entity with some characteristics and behavior. For example, take a class car. A car class has characteristics like color, gears, power, length, etc. Now we create the object of that class car, namely Ithaca. What is OOP? What are the features, concepts in OOPs? Or name any two OOPs principles. The object-oriented programming paradigm is the latest in the software development and the most adopted one in the programming development. The paradigm means organizing principle of a program. It is an approach to programming. The concepts of OOPs are: 1. Data abstraction. 2. Data encapsulation. 3. Modularity. 4. Inheritance. 5. Polymorphism. Explain the concepts of OOPs. Abstraction. It refers to the act of representing essential features without including the background details or explanation. Encapsulation. It is the way of combining both data and the function that operates on the data under a single unit. Modularity. It is the property of a system that has been decomposed into a set of cohesive and loosely coupled modules. Inheritance. It is the capability of one class of thing to inherit properties from another class. Polymorphism. It is the ability for a message or data to be processed in more than one form. What are the advantages of OOPs? Elimination of redundant coding system and usage of existing classes through inheritance. Program can be developed by sharing existing modules. Possibilities of multiple instances of an objects without any interference. Security of data values from other segment of the program through data hiding. What is class? How object is related to the class. A class represent a set of objects that share common characteristics and behavior. Objects are instance of a class. The object represents the abstraction representation by the class in the real sense. What is the need of a class in Java? Classes in Java are needed to represent real-world entities, which have data-type properties. Classes provide convenient methods for packing together a group of logical related data items and functions that work on them. In Java, the data items are called fields and the functions are called methods. What are methods? How are these related to an objects? A method is an operation associated to an object. The behavior of an object is represented through associated function, which are called methods. Point out the differences between procedural programming and object-oriented programming. Procedural programming aims more at procedures. The emphasis is on doing things rather than the data being used. In procedural programming, operating data are shared among all the functions participating, thereby risking data safety and security. Object-oriented programming is based on principles of data hiding, abstraction, inheritance and polymorphism. It implements programs using classes and objects. In OOPs, data and procedure both given equal importance. Data and functions are encapsulated to ensure data safety and security. What is abstraction? An abstraction is a named collection of attributes and behaviors required to represent an entity or concept for some particular problem domain. What is inheritance and how it is useful in Java? It is process by which objects of one class acquire the properties of objects of another class. Inheritance supports the concepts of hierarchical representation. In OOP, the concepts of inheritance provides the idea of reusability. What role does polymorphism play as Java feature? It means the ability to take more than one form. For example, an operation, many types of data used in the operation. What is data hiding? Data hiding means restricting the accessibility of data associated with an object in such a way that it can be used only through the member methods of the object. What are nested classes? It is possible to define a class within another class. Such classes are known as nested classes. A nested class has access to the members including private members of the class in which it is nested. However, the enclosing class not have access to the members of the nested class. Differentiate between base and derived class. Base class, a class from which another class inherits, also called superclass. Derived class, a class inheriting properties from another class, also called subclass. Why keyword is different from identifiers. Keywords are predefined set of words that have a special meaning for the Java compiler. Identifiers, on the other hand, are created by Java programmers in order to give names to variables, function, classes, etc. Identifiers are the building block of Java program. It is otherwise called as variables. Why keyword is different from identifiers. Keywords are predefined set of words that have a special meaning for the Java compiler. Identifiers, on the other hand, are created by Java programmers in order to give names to variables, function, classes, etc. State the difference between token and identifier. The smallest individual unit of a program is known as token. The following tokens are available in Java: keywords, identifiers, literals, punctuations, operators. Identifiers are names given to different parts of a program, for example variables, functions, classes, etc. The identifiers in Java. What are literals? How many types of integer literals are available in Java? A literal is sequence of characters used in a program to represent a constant value. For example, a is a literal that represents the value a of type char, and 17 liters is a literal that represents the number 17 as value of type long. Different types of literals available in Java. They are integer literal, float literal, boolean literal, character literal, string literal, and null literal. What is an integer constant? Write integer forming rule of Java. Integer constants are whole numbers without any decimal part. The rule for forming an integer constant is: an integer constant must have at least one digit and cannot contain a decimal point. It may contain plus or sign. A number with no sign is interpreted to be positive. What do you mean by escape sequence, and name few escape sequences in Java? Java have certain non-graphic characters. Non-graphic characters are those characters that cannot be typed directly from keyboard, for example backspace, tab, carriage return, etc. Those non-graphic character can be represented by escape sequence. An escape sequence is represented by backslash followed by one or more character. The few escape sequence characters are backslash n for new line, backslash t for horizontal tab, backslash v for vertical tab, backslash b for backspace, for double quotes, etc. Differentiate between base and derived class. Base class, a class from which another class inherits, also called superclass. Derived class, a class inheriting properties from another class, also called subclass. What is meant by a floating constant in Java? How many ways can a floating constant be represented into? Floating constants are real numbers. A floating constant can either be a fractional or in exponent form. Differentiate between integer and floating type constants. Integer constants are the whole numbers, without decimal points. For example 1231. Floating point constants are fractional numbers, number with decimal points. For example 14.2356. Write the following real constants into fractional form: 0.113e4, 0.417e-4, 0.4e-5, 0.123e2. 0.113e4 becomes 1130. 0.417e-4 becomes 0.000417. 0.4e-5 becomes 0.000004. 0.123e2 becomes 12.3. What is a type or data type? How this term is related to programming. A type or data type represents a set of possible values. When we specify that a variable has certain type, we are saying what values the expression can have. For example, to say that a variable is of type int says that integer values in a certain range can be stored in that variable. What is primitive data type? Name its different types. Primitive data types are those that are not composed of other data types. Numeric integral, fractional, character and Boolean are different primitive data types. State the two kind on data types. The two types of data types are primitive and non-primitive / composite / user-defined data types. The primitive data types are byte, short, int, long, float, double, char and Boolean. The non-primitive / reference data types are class, array and interface. Write down the names of 3 primitive and 3 non-primitive / reference data types in Java, Blue Edge. The primitive data types are byte, short, int, long, float, double, char and Boolean. The non-primitive / reference data types are class, array and interface. How many bytes occupied by the following data types: byte, short, int, long, float, double, char, Boolean? Byte 1 byte. Char 2 byte. Short 2 bytes. Int 4 bytes. Float 4 bytes. Long 8 bytes. Double 8 bytes. Boolean Java reserve 8 bits but only use 1 bit. What is the range of the following data types: byte, short, int, long, float, double, char, Boolean? Byte -128 to 127. Short -32768 to 32767. Int -231 to 231.1. Long -263 to 263.1. Float -3.4 by 1038 to 3.4 by 1038. Double -1.7 by 10,308 to 1.7 by 10,308. Char 0 to 65,536. Boolean true or false. What is the largest and smallest value for floating point primitive data types float? The smallest value is -3.4e plus 38 and largest values is 3.4e plus 38 a floating point data type. What is token? What are the tokens available in Java? The smallest individual unit of a program is known as token. The following tokens are available in Java: keywords, identifiers, literals, punctuations, operators. What do you mean by variables? A variable is a named memory location, which holds a data value of a particular data types. Example: P. What do you mean by variables? What do you mean by dynamic initialization of a variable? A variable is a named memory location, which holds a data value of a particular data types. When a method or functions is called and the return value is initialized to a variable is called dynamic initialization. Example: P equals math.pow2, 3. What is the function of an operator? Operators are special symbols that represent operations that can be carried out on variables, constants or expressions. What is the largest and smallest value for floating point primitive data types float? The smallest value is -3.4e plus 38 and largest values is 3.4e plus 38 a floating point data type. What are arithmetic operators? Arithmetical operators are used for various mathematical calculations. The result of an arithmetical expression is a numerical values. Arithmetical operators are of following types: unary and binary operators. Write major difference between the unary and binary operators. The operators that acts on one operand are referred to as unary operator. There are two unary operators: unary plus operator and unary operator. The operators that acts upon two operands are referred to as binary operator. The binary operators are addition plus, subtraction, dash, multiplication, division, slash, and modulus, percent. What is increment operator? What are postfix and prefix increment operators? The plus plus operator is called increment operator. The increment operators add 1 to its operand. These are two types: I, prefix, and 2, postfix. The prefix version comes before the operand for example plus plus a, whereas postfix comes after the operand, for example a plus plus. What do you mean by relational operator? Relational operators are used to determine the relationship between different operands. These are used in work of compression also. The relational expression, condition, returns 0 if the relation is false and return 1 if the relation is true. Less than, greater than, equals, less than equals to, equals, greater than equals to, equals to, equals, not equals to. What is logical operators? The logical operators combine the result of or more than two expressions. The mode of connecting relationship in these expressions refers as logical, and the expressions are called logical expression. The logical expression returns 1 if the result is true, otherwise 0 returns. The logical operators provided by Java are logical and logical or logical not. What do you mean by assignment statement or assignment operator? Assignment operator is represented by symbol equals. It takes the value on the right and stores it in the variable on the left side. For example, x equals y plus 30. Illustrate conditional operator with an example. It is a conditional operator that stores a value depending upon a condition. This operator is also known as ternary operator. The syntax and example is shown here. What is the purpose of new operator? New allocates dynamic memory. We can use new operator to create a new objects or new array. My class obj equals new my class. Int r equals new int 5. What do you mean by precedence? Illustrate with the help of example. Precedence is the order in which a program evaluates the operations in a formula or expression. All operators have precedence value. An operator with higher precedence value is evaluated first, then the operator having lower precedence value. Consider the following example. X equals 5 plus 4 times 6. The value of this expression is 29, not 54 or 34. Multiplication has been performed first in this expression. What is operand? An operator acts on different data items, entities called operands. What do you mean by constant? How you declare a variable as constant variables. The memory variables, locations whose values cannot be changed within the program, is called constants. The keyword final makes a variable as constants. How many bytes occupied by the following data types: byte, short, int, long, float, double, char, boolean? Byte 1 byte. What is the function of math.ceil? Math.ceil. This function returns the smallest whole number greater than or equal to the given number. Example. Math.ceil 12.85 gives output 13 and Math.ceil 12.35 also gives output 13. What do you mean by type conversion? What is the difference between implicit and explicit type conversion? Explain with example. The process of converting one predefined type into another is called type conversion. A implicit type conversion is a conversion performed by the compiler. The Java compiler converts all operands up to the type of the largest operand. This is also known as type promotion. For example, C32 is converted to int type. Whereas an explicit type conversion is user-defined that forces an expression to be of specific type, this also known as type casting. For example, float x plus y/2. What is coercion? How it is implemented. Implicit type conversion of an expression is termed as coercion. A implicit type conversion is a conversion performed by the compiler. The Java compiler converts all operands up to the type of the largest operand. This is default type conversion. Differentiate between base and derived class. Base class, a class from which another class inherits, also called superclass. Derived class, a class inheriting properties from another class, also called subclass. Explain the methods print and println. A computer program is written to manipulate a given set of data and to display or print the results. Java supports two output methods that can be used to send the results to the screen. Print method, println method. The print method sends information into a buffer. This buffer is not flushed until a new line, or end of line, character is sent. As a result, print method prints output on one line. The println method by contrast takes the information provided and displays it on a line followed by a line. Feed. What is an expression? Explain its different types. An expression is any statement which is composed of one or more operands and return a value. It may be combination of operators, variables and constants. There are three different types of expressions. 1. Constant expressions, 8 times 12/2. 2. Integral expressions, formed by connecting integer constants x equals a plus b/2. 3. Logical expressions, a b or a exclamation mark equals b. Mention different styles of expressing a comment in a program. The ways of inserting a comments in a program are: using // single line comments, using multiple line comments, using documenting comments. What is logical operators? The logical operators combine the result of or more than two expressions. The mode of connecting relationship in these expressions refers as logical and the expressions are called logical expression. What is a compound statement? Give an example. It is a block of code containing more than one executable statement. In Java, the is called block and the statements written under is called compound statements or block statement. The opening and closing braces indicates the start and end of a compound statement. What is constructor? A constructor is a member function that automatically called when the object is created of that class. It has the same name as that of the class name and its primary job is to initialize the object to a legal value for the class. Why do we need a constructor as a class member? Constructor is used to create an instance of a class. This can be also called creating an object. Why does a constructor should be defined as public? A constructor should be defined in public section of a class, so that its objects can be created in any function. What are nested classes? It is possible to define a class within another class. Such classes are known as nested classes. A nested class has access to the members including private members of the class in which it is nested. However, the enclosing class not have access to the members of the nested class. Explain the parameterized constructor. If we want to initialize objects with our desired value, we can use parameters with constructor and initialize the data members based on the arguments passed to it. Constructor that can take arguments are called parameterized constructor. Mention some characteristics of constructors. The special characteristics of constructors are: constructors should be declared in the public section of the class. They are invoked automatically when an object of the class is created. They do not have any return type and cannot return any values. 4. Like any other function, they can accept arguments. V. A class can have more than one constructor. By default, constructor do not accept parameters. 7. If no constructor is present in the class, the compiler provides a default constructor. State the difference between constructor and method. The function has a return type like int, but the constructor has no return type. The function must be called in programs, whereas constructor automatically called when the object of that class is created. What are the types of constructors used in a class? The different types of constructors are as follows. I. Default constructors. 2. Parameterized constructor. 3. Copy constructors. Define copy constructors. A copy constructors initializes the instant variables of an object by copying the initial value of the instant variables from another objects. What is function? Why do we use functions while programs handling? A named unit of a group of programs statements. This unit can be invoked from other parts of the program. Define function prototype. The function prototype is the first line of the function definition that tells the program about the type of the value returned by the function and the number and types of arguments. What is the use of void before function name? Void data type specifies an empty set of values, and it is used as the return type for functions that do not return a value. Thus, a function that does not return a value is declared as follows. Void functions name, parameter list. Explain functions, methods definitions with syntax. A function must be defined before it is used anywhere in the program. Access specifier modifier return type function name, parameter list. Body of the function. Access specifier can be either public, protected or private. Modifier can be one of final, native, synchronize, transient, volatile. Return type specifies the type of value that the return statement of the function returns. It may be any valid Java data type. Parameter list is comma-separated list of variables of a function. Why main function so special? The main function is invoked in the system by default. Hence, as soon as the command for execution of the program is used, control directly reaches the main function. Explain the function prototype and the signature. The function prototype is the first line of the function definitions, that tells the program about the type of the value returned by the function and the number and type of the arguments. Function signature basically refers to the number and types of the arguments. It is the part of the prototype. Explain the function of a return statement. The return statement is useful in two ways. First, an immediately exit from the function is caused as soon as a return statement is encountered and the control back to the main caller. Second use of return statement is that it is used a value to the calling code. Right advantages of using functions in programs. I. Functions lessen the complexity of programs. 2. Functions hide the implementation details. 3. Functions enhance reusability of code. Difference between actual argument and formal argument? The parameter that appears in function call statement are called actual argument, and the parameter that appears in function definition are called formal parameter. Right advantages of using functions in programs. I. Functions lessen the complexity of programs. 2. Functions hide the implementation details. 3. Functions enhance reusability of code. What are static members? The members that are declared static is called static members. These members are associated with the class itself rather than individual objects. The static members and static methods are often referred to as class variables and methods. What is the use of static in main methods? I. They can only call other static methods. 2. They can only access static data. 3. They cannot refer to this or super in any way. What is a compound statement? Give an example. It is a block of code containing more than one executable statement. In Java, the is called block and the statements written under is called compound statements or block statement. The explain the term passed by a reference. In passed by a reference, the called function receives the reference to the passed parameters, and through this reference, it accesses the original data. Any changes that take place are reflected in the original data. Define and impure functions. Impure function change the state of the object arguments they have received and then return. What is an object? An object is an identifiable entity with some characteristics and behavior. For example, take a class car. What does function overloading mean? What is its significance? A function name having several definitions in the same scope that are differentiable by the number or type of their arguments is said to be an overloaded function. Function overloading not only implements polymorphism but also reduce the number of comparisons in a program and thereby makes the programs run faster. What do you mean by a recursive function? When a method is called inside its own definition, the process is known as functions recursion, and this function called recursive function. Explain functions, methods definitions with syntax. A function must be defined before it is used anywhere in the program. Access specifier modifier. What is autoboxing? Converting primitive data into an object of its corresponding wrapper class is called autoboxing. What is unboxing? Converting wrapper class object to its corresponding primitive data is unboxing. What is the use of final? When a variable is declared with final keyword, its value can't be modified, essentially, a constant. This also means that you must initialize a final variable. Simply to be said, it makes a variable constant. What are accumulators? An accumulator is a variable that the program uses to calculate a sum or product of a series of values. A computer program does this by having a loop that adds or multiplies each successive value onto the accumulator,